Hey guys, it's Jen from Dizzy Quilter. Today I'm sharing with you a little freebie that I have for my newsletter subscribers and um, also members of my Kawandi On Demand class that you can find at dizzyquilter.com. All right, so a couple weeks ago, a friend of mine who owns Hangin' by a Thread in New Jersey invited me to teach her Quilt Scouts group hand quilting, but she wanted me to do a pumpkin-shaped mug rug out of Kawandi. That's kind of a high bar. It's a rounded Kawandi. I decided to give it a shot instead of just saying no. And I did make a pumpkin shaped Kawandi, and I do think it's really cute. This little highlight is, I'm not happy with that, but it's done and it's gonna stay this way. But getting it curved was really challenging. And for people who have never hand quilted before, I thought this might be a little bit too much, so I didn't do that for the class. I decided to continue on challenging myself to come up with something with a pumpkin for a mug rug for the class. My next try was this guy, and he had the upgrade of felted wool stem. I thought was very cute. A Kawandi piece layered center, and the corners to get the rounded. I used a trick that I've used in my couple of designs and my windows to my heart pattern. I have this kind of, it starts out as a square, it gets folded, and then it's like a cathedral windows effect. And I thought that was pretty cute. I like it a lot. But this part's really fussy, and I didn't want it to be super fussy for beginners. So rather than make it a nightmare project, I decided to, step forward and simplify a little bit more. So this one, the corners are just turned under. So it's a squared off pumpkin. It's a little bit more of an abstract pumpkin. This is a good trick if you're trying to get something and you're frustrated with your shapes. Make it abstract. And you can use that vocab even if you've just screwed it up. It's abstract. People will buy it. Just make sure you don't giggle when you say it. That's the giveaway. But so this one is the typical Kawandi piecing. With a little bit of addition of a border on the edge. So what I did was I just made the backing way too big, folded it over to get the border, and I've got that. I decided to make that this is good. This is good, but maybe a step too far for most beginners. So we skipped the layering section and we just went to a big square with the corners folded under, and that I thought was just about perfect for my pumpkin. I was very happy. This is what I taught the class. Everybody seemed to enjoy it. And this is what I have an instruction sheet for. So if you join my newsletter, you can download the instruction sheet for free and get the pattern with the instructions. It's only one page, so it's not fantastic. The following video will help even more. This is the one that I made during the video, the demonstration. I didn't put a highlight on it because I thought the stripes were enough. But you can see it's really fun. It's pretty easy. I think they take me a couple, maybe 3 hours each to do. And I have a proliferation of pumpkin mug rugs to play with and give away as gifts or whatever I want, or just drag around to every Kawandi class and lecture I do. But here we go. And you can see I'm just working through my various collections of felted wool for the stem. You don't have to use that. It's just something that I happen to have. But here you go. Instructions are coming right up. All right, you ready to get started? Let's look at, if you follow the link below, down there, you can go to my website and get this little printable. It's free if you are a member of my newsletter, or if you sign up for my newsletter, subscribe. And what it has is the list of supplies, the list of tools, and some basic directions on what we're going to do today. And my website's dizzyquilter.com, in case you're curious. But so we are going to start with an 8-inch square of batting. Just whatever you have laying around is fine. This looks like it is cotton. I have a lot of different battings in my stash, so since it's an 8-inch square, this is a great way to use up a scrap. You're going to want a 12-inch or larger square of your background, and this is going to be your backing and your background. You're going to want an 8-inch square of fabric for your pumpkin, and I'm a big fan of stripy pumpkins. So we're gonna want an 8-inch square. This is just already folded. And a little piece of felt or polar fleece or anything else that won't unravel on you unless you don't mind unraveling for your stem. And I've drawn out a stem template that you can use. I actually just cut them out freehand because pumpkin stems are all very strange shapes. So that's what I have. So if you're not comfortable just cutting out a pumpkin stem shaped thing, you can use this little template. All right, so let's get started. So you're gonna wanna, let's set that aside. You're gonna wanna take your batting and your backing and center your batting on the backing. And then I like to take an iron, and I'm not gonna do that right this moment because I already did it. And I fold it first so that, let's see, this one, I have a system that I use so that everybody is kind of going the same way. All right. And you'll have this. Now, when we center our pumpkin, I don't want to have these raw edges show. So what I'm going to do is just kind of, I call it mitering, but it's really just tucking those under. The more you can get it to be very precise with a 45-degree angle, it doesn't really matter. It looks like this one I went this way. And again, it doesn't matter which one's going in which direction. Obviously, I must have done it wrong or had some reason to do it this way, which escapes me now. All right, so that's right. And I would give this a press with an iron, and then it'll hold together really well. You may notice if you've done any Kawandi stuff with me before, I don't usually have the backing show on the front, but this time I want it to because I want to have it look like a pumpkin on a background, not a pumpkin-shaped Kawandi. There is a lot of bulk here, and it's going to be a little tough to stitch through. If you want, you can try to trim off a little bit. I don't bother because I'm just so paranoid about things unraveling later. I would rather just tough it out with the thick layer of fabric. Sorry, I misplaced my stem. So take your pumpkin, and this is my 8-inch square. And you can see I did trim the corners on this a little bit to reduce a little bit of bulk. And you want to fold it over about a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch, all the way around. And then just kind of fold in the corners to round it off a little bit. You can try to make it rounder if you like. It is entirely up to you. I do not want to be bothered with that. I tried a rounded shape last week. I found it to be not worth the effort. So I'm going to take my pins and I'm just going to fasten my pumpkin shape. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the corners and make sure that everybody is covered up. On this particular project, I don't want raw edges. Sometimes I want them, but not today. But I'm going to make sure that I got plenty of seam allowance there. And I am going to break my rule of only using 2 pins. All right. Okay, and the last thing is my stem, which somehow I keep misplacing. I'm going to tuck my stem under the pumpkin shape. And I want to get about 1/4 of an inch or more. I don't mind that it's sticking out over the top. If that bothers you, shift it around until you get. And also, it's okay to have it on top. I just like it behind it. So, position your pumpkin stem as desired. Now, I have, let's see. Okay, if you've been with me for a while, you know that I'm a big fan of 12-weight thread from Wonderfill. I decided to mix it up a little bit this time, and I am using this 12-weight from Wonderfill. It's called Glamour, or maybe Glamour. I'm not sure, but it's spelled a little weird. And it is rayon with some metallic in it, so it's got a little bit of sparkle. I've done several cotton things lately, and I'm in the mood for some sparkle, so I'm going to use this. I will say that this stuff keeps falling off of the spool. It's a little bit annoying to work with. It will tangle a little bit more, but I think it's worth it for the shimmer. I'm gonna take my needle. This is a size 3 millimeter's needle. This one is from Bohin, B-O-H-I-N. My favorite is from Sue Spargo, but this is the one I've got today. And I put a little quilter's knot in there. And in case that wasn't obvious enough, this is one of my weaknesses. So I place the thread across my fingertip. I put the needle across the thread so it forms a little T. Wrap it around twice, pull them together, and then I'm gonna pinch them shut. And I'm gonna pull the needle through while at the same time holding the thread with my back fingers to make sure it doesn't get any extra knots. And then I'm gonna get this nice little knot that's easy to control and hide. And I am going to put my needle behind my fabric and come up to the front really, really close to the edge. And I'm gonna tuck my knot behind the fabric, make sure it's in there, and then start stitching. And I go clockwise around. And since it's really thick at the beginning and it's kind of hard to get started with running stitch, I don't worry about running stitch. I do stab stitch to get started. You might note I wear a ring on my middle finger as a thimble. I'll show you how that works in a minute. And I wear this rubber, a rubber thimble. It's really soft rubber on my thumb or my forefinger, depending which size I find, to help hold the needle. I pull the needle because sometimes pulling the needle stresses my thumb joint. And I want to be able to sew for a long time today and forever. So I try to protect my joints while I can. All right. Once you go around the outside once, no more pins to be used here. This one, you'll note in my my sample, I have a little scrap over here as a highlight. I decided not to do this on this. I'm doing the sparkly thread and it's got stripes and that's enough. But the highlight is an option. You just fold under all 4 sides and position it where you want. Or on this one that I've got, I found this fabric that's a little bit thicker and heavier. And see, can you see the texture? I pulled out some of the extra threads on the side. CJ, stop. Sorry, we've lost our ball. To get this kind of nice frayed bit. You know, I said I didn't want any frayed edges, but I sometimes do. Shh, shh, baby girl. So I use that as a highlight here. You can do whatever you want. Highlights, no highlights. You could also make it look like a jack-o'-lantern with some triangles and stuff. Have fun, play. Okay, so I'm gonna stitch around for a little bit more and I will talk about, oh, let's see. I'm gonna stitch around. When I get to the stem, it's gonna be a little thick. I'm just gonna stab stitch through there and then I'll come back when I'm over here. Things to keep in mind, my stitches are about 1/8 of an inch and they're about the same on the front as the back. And that's it. There's no wrong way to do it. Okay. Let's see. Let's end this thread. So technically I could get it into the middle of the piece, but it's a little harder to do on subsequent rounds of stitching, so I thought I'd show you. I'm just going to take a final stitch and bring my needle to the back. Somehow it's already covered in dog hair. All right, so I'm going to form a little loop, just a standard little knot in the back. And I'm going to put my tip of my needle down on my thread at the base and pull tight so that the knot is really close to the fabric. Now to make this go away, I'm going to slide the needle into the same hole, take a giant stitch. I'm going to double check the front to make sure my needle didn't go through the front fabric, and I'm going to pull it through. And you can still see the knot here. What I'm going to do is hold the thread, put my finger down on the fabric, and then pop the knot through. That way it's invisible. It is not required to hide your knots. I like to hide my knots because I know how. And then to restart, just the same way, and cut my length of thread. I'm going to thread my needle and do my quilter's knot. Thread on the finger, needle over the thread, 2 times around, pinch it, and pull it through. Got a little knot, okay? What I'm gonna do is the same thing. I am going to start my thread down here so that I can come back up where my next stitch would go, pull it through, and put my finger down to hold the fabric taut and pull. Don't pull too hard, it'll go right out again, and you have to, it'll just go through. So just, be gentle, and I can feel that the knot is caught right here. It's great. So now I'm going to take my stitch back to the front, make sure I am in my pumpkin, and then I'm going to keep stitching. And if you want to see for running stitch how I use my thimble, get a little closer here. I tend to position the back of the needle against the divots in the little thimble thing, put my needle in, hold it straight, and then with my left hand I kind of bend the fabric back and forth. Now it's still really a little bit thick, and I think I've got a batting that's a little bit thicker than I prefer. So, oops, that's how I use it. And my theory with using the one in my whole hand instead of using one on the tip of my finger and rocking like traditional quilting, first I want bigger stitches. And second, that tends to give me a lot of pain, and it all goes, right into my carpal tunnel when I do that. The whole back of my hand will hurt. So when I use my finger and I push this way, it's the side of the finger. It feels a little stronger. Also, these other two fingers are backing it up. So I'm pushing with more of my hand, and I don't get that pain in the middle of my hand. A lot of what I do is just aim to prevent discomfort. Let's see. So I'll continue stitching, and once I get back here, I'll be back. All right. So I'm almost back to my starting point. And I'm just going to take a few more stitches and push them through. Pull it through. And I've got this little thread sticking out. I don't like that. So we're just going to tuck that in here. And then stitch along until we get right back to where I started. All right. So if I take another stitch, I'll hit my first stitch. What I'm going to do is now just kind of turn the corner. And continue on to get my nice Kawandi inspired spiral going. What do I have this way too close, huh? All right. I am just short enough that when I work at the table, I can barely see what's going on the screen. And I am entirely too lazy to make my computer show what my phone is recording. But so we're just going to continue stitching, and I am not going to do all of that on frame because I've basically shown you all the bits. You can see on this sample I get around and I just spiral around and around. I never close off one of the boxes of stitches. I just keep going around and around till I get to the center. And you can leave your center unstitched as much as you want. Like honestly, if you're done, if you think that this process sucks and you don't want to do it, you can stop here. You can also do this on your sewing machine. Totally fine. It'll work. It'll look much the same. It'll look like machine stitches instead of hand stitches. But I'm going to finish sewing this one around. And then the next step is just to sew the border and get that stitch down. But I still have to decide what thread I want to use in the border. I don't think I'm going to use this sparkle. So we got to think about that. But that's it. Just keep going around and around until you get to the center. All right. I got a little distracted and started stitching the next step without the camera on. So what I do is I've got my thread color changed. I got now this one that's still sparkly, so also difficult to work with, but matches the background a little bit better. But you can see, maybe you can't see, I started stitching about a ½ inch away from the corner. And I popped the knot into the back. So you can see where it went in over here. And then I started my stitch line, and I keep my stitch line very, very close to the edge because I want it to be really flat. And I am going to stitch all the way around until I come back to here. And when I do that, I'm going to turn and make my next row of stitches parallel. And that way it doesn't have this weird little angle that I dislike. It's just a little bit of an anal retentive thing that I do. So I will be back one more time to show you my finished work and talk about how I finished it off. But basically this is where we're at right now. And I have like, I don't know, an hour of stitching to go around the outer edge a couple of times. So I'll be back. I went around a couple of times. What is it, like just twice actually, because then there was, or no, 3 times. And it does leave these open triangles. You can go back in and stitch over those if you want. I just don't think that's necessary on my pieces. But you can see my last row of stitches is really, really close to the first row. Actually, you can see it really well on the back. So there's the first row, second row, third row really butts up against the pumpkin very closely because I don't want to have any unusually fluffy bits other than these triangles. These could take, I could go back in and embroider like a triangle on the edge, but I'm so lazy and I'm not going to do that. So I hope you enjoyed the videos. If you want the PDF, go to my newsletter. You can find it at well, we don't do the W's anymore, do we? dizzyquilter.com, and you should get a pop-up, one of those annoying pop-ups that says sign up for my newsletter. And you'll be able to download the pumpkin. If you're already on my newsletter, it's in next Monday's issue, so you'll see it, or maybe today's issue, we'll see. It's either already in there, you've already gotten it, or you'll get it next week. But super fun, seasonal little project if you're thinking you need to do one. And let me know what you think about it, and I will see you around. Bye.